Good Friday morning. I'm Randi Hildreth. Thank you so much for waking up with us this morning. It's bright and early, but I imagine some people are already thinking about that Thanksgiving leftover plate that they plan to eat. It's 4 a.m. Listen, this is a safe space. This time last week, we were saying like, oh, hurricane season. We're looking ahead to November. Nothing, too serious. But now, hurricane watch this morning. Allison mentioned Puerto Rico is dealing with significant damage this morning in the wake of Hurricane Fiona. I want you to take a look at just a few of the videos we've gathered. I asked him if he was happy that he included this tiny hall closet in the design, and he was so happy he did because this is where he and his significant other, two people, hunkered down under these shelves. So I want to break it down into what we see, what we know, and what we are working to find out. So let's start with what we see. Fox's Doug Luzader is live in Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. As you mentioned, I want to bring Governor DeSantis into the conversation. Do you think that this potentially speeds up his timeline for making any additional announcements, officially throwing his hat into the race? And we are following breaking news. SpaceX is preparing to send up a rocket from Cape Canaveral. The Falcon 9 will carry another batch of Starlink internet satellites into orbit. Let's go ahead and start listening now. 10 out of 10 for me. It's so beautiful to watch this. I think it's so special to see it at 4:30, dark and early in the morning, because the launch just illuminates the sky. So another successful launch. Some areas in Volusia County got a significant amount of rain, which led to flooding. If we look back here, this is off Cortland and Cabot. It's hard to make out, but there is a cul-de-sac back there. And one of the families actually had to use a kayak to get from their home to dry land. Now, as for this home on the corner, if you look down below my feet, they actually installed this makeshift bridge so that they could get out of their home onto dry land. I'm at the transportation hub, and it's a perfect time to remind people about bus safety. I want to show you something really quickly. I have my cameraman cut off the lights to see. It's probably pretty hard for you to see me this morning. I want to use this as a reminder for people to make sure that you put on your lights, and we'll turn the lights back on so you can see me as you are driving. I need to scream at you, Matt. It's an exciting time for fans because the Rolex 24 means racing season has officially begun. I know it's loud out there. It is officially Black Friday, but people don't cram the stores like they used to. It wasn't long ago when stores looked like this. You remember this? Well, take a look at this new video. It shows people running for safety. Ooh, look at it here. It follows that mass shooting in Philadelphia Saturday night. 3 people died. 11 people are still recovering this morning. Just scary moments. Murder of a man in Seminole County is being described as gruesome, horrific, and evil. Deputies say he was killed at random in Pasco County. As Fox 35's David Puglisi reports, the man's family is now calling for answers. My wingspan 5 feet. So the gator is double the size of my arm. So 10-foot gator, double the size of what you see. Actually, the sign that was on the gates alerting people that the park was closed as they monitored this situation. Boardwalk temporarily closed. Aggressive 10-foot plus alligator to be relocated. Before students could get breakfast and lunch to go, Volusia County Public Schools said it would send students home with bags of food. Well, now that this waiver is ending, families have to physically bring their child to schools like Discovery Elementary.
Verdict as to count 1. We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty.
Danielle Redlick's chest buckled and she cried after the verdict was read, emotionally wringing her hands and at one point thanking jurors after they found her not guilty of murdering her husband. The defense spoke briefly as they walked to the elevator after the verdict was read.
Very happy with the verdict. Won't be making any statements.
Redlick was charged with second-degree murder in the stabbing death of her husband, Michael. He was an executive at UCF. Jurors, though, agreed with Redlick that it was self-defense. She testified she stabbed Michael after he tried to smother her because she'd been texting another man. During the trial, her attorneys called on several witnesses and brought Redlick on the stand, hoping to show that the deadly encounter was the culmination of over a decade of domestic abuse.
She's happy to go home.
The state declined comment on camera after the trial ended.
Now, again, Redlick was found guilty of that tampering with evidence charge. She admitted in court to deleting text messages, cleaning blood at the scene before calling 911. She is set to be sentenced in August. The defense argued that she should get credit for time served. In Orange County, Randi Hildreth.
Students at Discovery Elementary filed in for lunch around 11 this morning.
The French fries, we had the chicken patties, had the broccoli and tomatoes.
And settled in at one of the long cafeteria tables to dig in.
Thank Thank you.
Students must eat breakfast and lunch at district meal sites this summer, a new requirement now that the USDA federal food waiver is expiring. Families were able to grab food and go for the last 2 summers.
Send families home with meals for 5 days, which, if you think about it, was a lot of food. And so we knew that they were at home and they were eating.
Eating at meal sites may not have seemed like a big deal until districts like Volusia County started counting how many milk cartons they were distributing.
It have impacted us a lot. We had schools making 300 bags a day, and now we're feeding 50 students.
How many parents can actually bring their kid to school for breakfast and then bring them back for lunch? And so realistically, we're feeding hundreds, if not thousands, of less meals every day as a result of this change.
The district believes working families and those feeling a tighter pinch from high gas prices are the ones who need the meals the most and the ones who can't get back and forth to get them. District leaders say they're frustrated because they're bound by the federal guidelines.
Deep down, we're all struggling right now because we know what's the right thing to do. We're just unable to do it.
Some people might say the C in Terminal C should stand for Count Your Steps. As glamorous as this place is, a lot of the people we spoke to today said it takes a lot of walking to navigate this space. But airport officials say, listen, we understand and we are working on a plan to help you rest your feet. Today's story called for sneakers and a step counter. From the Terminal C drop-off shuttle to the TSA line, it was about 643 steps, or just over a quarter of a mile. But that's only the beginning of your walking journey to and from your gate here. How long do you think you walk?
Couple city blocks.
I'd say 15 minutes total of a walk from the very end of that terminal to baggage claim.
Patty McDonald flew in from Boston and says it's much farther than she's used to walking at airports, and it isn't for the faint.
They need some sort of moving walkways. We were commenting about, my last trip was with my parents. They could not handle this airport.
Airport authority officials say they're on board with the idea of a moving sidewalk to shorten the walk. In fact, they had hoped to have them. This is the rendering from the original design for Terminal C. You can see an arrow pointing to where moving sidewalks would have gone. The airport authority says it was nixed from the project to stay within the $3.1 billion budget. Now it's looking at how to add them back. The CEO sent this statement to Fox 35 saying, quote, "The architecture of record report in 2017, the corridors were reduced by 10 feet. As a result, the moving sidewalks were removed because conventional standards dictated they would not fit. What we are now doing is challenging those conventions and seeing how we could do a retrofit." As for cost and a hard timeline, still working to get information about that, but airport officials did say that they hope to make a decision about next steps this year. At OIA, Randi Hildreth, Fox 35 News.